Thanks very much for stopping by the Digital Creator Daily. If you're new here, I'm Rob from Hey Summit, and this is the daily-ish show where I get to have some awesome conversations with brilliant people doing pretty interesting things. We talk about the creator mindset, staying authentic, assembling your toolkit, exploring platforms, and a lot more. It's a pretty relaxed show about and for creators, thought leaders, and independent entrepreneurs. And just a reminder, a conversation is best when it's shared. So however you're tuning in, whether it's live, whether it's via the podcast, please feel free to jump in with your thoughts, with your questions and perspectives. And thanks so much for spending a bit of time with us. So I'm really happy to welcome Siobhan Farr to the show. Siobhan is an independent Medicare and health insurance advisor and the owner of Positive Impact for You Medicare and Health Insurance. Finding herself COVID locked in Ecuador last year, Siobhan pivoted her health insurance business to become Unintentional Digital Nomad in her 60s. In search of other late life travel work nomad, she became the Spark originator, aka founder, of the Facebook group Digital Nomads Beyond 50. This global network provides information and inspiration to those in their late 40 plus who are currently travel, working, planning to, or just curious. Just 5 months after its start, DNB 50 recently hosted their first summit, and that's how we got to know Siobhan. Siobhan, thank you so much for giving some time for me today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, Rob. I really am looking forward to spending time with you and the folks here.
Absolutely. So first off, you're a digital nomad. Where are you right now? Where are you based?
I'm not based anywhere. I am one of those people. I happen to be in Guatemala, specifically San Lucas Toloman, today. I've been here for 3 weeks. I hosted the summit from Mexico City. And as of today, I'm moving on to Antigua for a couple of days and then to El Salvador. I'm going to take a bus to El Salvador and continue the adventure for right now. But
wow, that's fantastic.
when I say that I don't have a base, I am home free. And I left Dallas, closed out and sold off 30 some years of my life there. Basically half my adult life was spent in Dallas. I'm originally from Belize, Central America, but closed out my life with the intention of actually starting my nomad years of traveling 6 to 7 months and returning for 5 months or so for the Medicare annual enrollment season in Dallas. And as you mentioned, in my first country, my itinerary for 2020 was originally 6 countries by 6 months. And my first country was Ecuador, and I intended to spend only 3 weeks in Ecuador. By the time I left, I had been there for 13 months, thanks to COVID. So,
Wow. So obviously a pretty rocky start to the adventure in some ways, but probably another type of adventure in another way. And I'd love to kind of get into the Digital Nomads Beyond 50 group. But just to start off with, just so that people know, your background, you used to be in kind of corporate education, especially, but in a corporate environment. So thinking back in time, I just want to get a bit inside your mindset. Like, you've been an entrepreneur for a little while now. At the very beginning, though, why did you decide that you didn't want to stick with the corporate kind of environment and that you wanted to work on your own business and wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, frankly, it started with the birth of my daughter. I had my daughter when I was 41, and we were very blessed and lucky, to get her. And after a year of trying to balance the whole traveling for the corporate world and being a mom who went in town, when I was in town, I was home. I was away from home for 12 hours. And I just decided that when she was about a year old, I decided, I worked too hard to have this baby, to give birth to this child, this person that I am now responsible for growing into a productive and positive person. So I had the resources at that time because I was the regional training manager for Fannie Mae. And so I had a lot of good contacts in the industry. I left to start my own consultancy. And within the first year of starting that, was doing very well. And my now husband, as I call him, because with much affection, mind you, because he was my husband, now he's not, but he's still the wonderful father of my child. He through his company, we had the opportunity to move to London, and we'd hoped to make that permanent. Within 6 months, we knew we wanted to stay. As it worked out, 2 years later, we came back because the company was filing for, at that time, the largest bankruptcy in the United States. WorldCom was the name of the company. And so I was left with, okay, I just spent the last 2 years totally out of the corporate world, except for a couple of ad hoc, instructional design classes that I'd created, or graphic designs that I did for people in London. So what do I do now? And I started my first entrepreneurial venture. I always was raised with the entrepreneurial gene, so to speak. My dad was Jamaican. And if you're not doing at least 3 jobs, you were underachieving as an immigrant in general, but specifically as being half Jamaican. So I started looking into starting a children's edutainment center, because it would be something that I could do that and create that it would make sense to bring my daughter to work anytime I wanted to. That got off to a great start. Unfortunately, there was the recession forced the close of that, and then as a result, I once again was looking for what type of work that I can do instead of going back into the corporate, because at this point, my daughter was 10 years old. She was used to having a mommy who showed up every once in a while with Chick-fil-A at lunchtime. Surprise, for her. So I didn't want to break away from that. And so I knew, since I used to teach consultative selling, I knew that if you go into sales, the pay structure would be based on my own efforts, and I would still have my time as my own. So I figured, well, I'll just have to find something to sell that I believe in. And health insurance was a very logical direction for me. And that's how I got into health insurance in 2009. And as a result of that, I like to say it was by divine, not by design, that all of these pieces fell into place, so that in 2020, when I had left, closed out, I didn't have a mortgage, didn't have renting an apartment or anything like that when I left March 2020. And but I had residual income from being in health insurance over several years. And so when I asked my doctors back in Dallas, should I come back, or should I stay? What should I do? I described how well Ecuador, as a country that had an early devastation from the pandemic, they were just amazing with the way that they were approaching trying to, flatten the curve. And my doctor said, you need to stay there. And even if you lose money doing a digital marketing for your business, the only logical thing for you to do is to stay there for your health and protect your health. And so that's how, as I say, I became an unintentional digital nomad, because I did my annual Medicare enrollment from Quito, which is where I had ended up being for 13 months. And I had actually grown to love Ecuador, considering that I only went for 3 weeks. It's a country that I'm looking forward to possibly making a sort of a home base for myself, because I love the people who I've met there. I have a family now in Ecuador. The people who I was renting my condo from have literally become my Ecuador family. And they're some very, very good friends that I also have there as well.
So throughout this whole kind of journey, I hear, I wanted to spend more time with my daughter, so I focused and figured out something, and then the recession happened, and so then I regrouped and figured something else out, and then a pandemic hit, and so I focused down. Like, do you think that there's clearly something, obviously, maybe it's in the Jamaican heritage, maybe it's something else. Do you find that it is it's just something a little bit, if there's something specific about you that makes you kind of see situations that may very well and are very big deals, harmful, potentially devastating kind of situations. Do you find, or do you feel like you react a different way because you're an entrepreneur versus someone who might look at those same situations and maybe
Mhm.
recoil? No, this is too much. This is a sign. I wasn't meant to do this. Do you see a difference, or maybe are you just kind of highlighting the good bits, but it's actually really tough at the same time?
It is really tough at the same time, but Rob, I because of my background, but it's also something I think that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's part of the immigrant spirit, both my Belizean and my Jamaican background. You bounce. You bounce. When something knocks you down, you bounce. You don't crumble. You don't break. There was a wonderful book that I read a long time ago. It is called Broken Open. And it's not about allowing situations to break you. It's to break you open to the new opportunities of the situation. And I was raised, I sent a message with to some of my, because I always try to make sure that my close friends and family are tracking where my next steps are, because I am a bit of a moving target, you know. So I sent a message to them, saying, "Oh, and by the way, when I go to Antigua, I'm going to be staying in this Bedouin tent of a Selena hostel that sleeps up to 20 people. But I'm hoping that maybe for COVID they've reduced it to half that amount." And it's just like I am constantly reinventing myself. And I've had to do that because from a child, I bounced between Belize and Brooklyn. Then my mother remarried when I was 9 years old, and I went to live on a dairy farm in upstate Pennsylvania and literally integrated the little school district up there. And then I lived between, going back and forth between the farm in Pennsylvania and friends and family in Brooklyn, New York, and sometimes Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where my uncle's family lived, and then back to Belize. So I was telling the story the other day about how used to be put on the red eye from New York to go to Belize for the summer. And that meant that I landed in Miami around 12:30 in the middle of the night, and my flight didn't leave until 7 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, by the way, I was like 7 and 8 years old, traveling by myself and just kind of making myself comfortable, watching the nighttime activity of what goes on in the airport after hours. So I was raised with a lot of bounce, but I don't think that is something that people can't acquire. A lot of times you learn to bounce by putting yourself in situations where you take on something that doesn't feel comfortable to you. I had no idea how to build a summit, to create a summit on your platform, but I used the excellent resources that Hey Summit provided in the forms of those live, the live office
Office
hours.
hours, yeah.
I'm telling you, seriously, Olga Moreno, I'm giving out their names. Olga Moreno and Kate Primrose, they were my heroes. Those women are absolutely awesome on your team. And they really helped me out a lot learning how to create the summit. But what I'm talking, and then I had to learn, edit videos, all the video. We had like 34 videos that came out of the summit that I had to figure out what platform that would be best to host them on, and long term and all of that. And so I had to force myself to take on new challenges, and that, I feel, for someone who maybe did not grow up the way I did with all of those bounce opportunities, one of the ways that they can do it for themselves is to put themselves into situations where they stretch themselves beyond what they think is their capability. and surprise themselves with what they can do.
I think that it's really interesting the way that you articulated that, because to be honest, a lot of people, it's very easy to say those things. It's very easy to say, it's okay, everything's easy. Look at me, look at what I've accomplished. It's much harder to be able to see the bounce, see the benefit in an experience that could also be very debilitating or worrying or anxiety causing. And I think that there's it really does separate the the situation as it's happening and your approach to the situation, whatever that is. And I mean, like, I think especially, and I'd love to maybe get into talking about the digital nomads beyond 50, like especially that, like, you who were not necessarily expecting to be considering yourself a digital nomad, you had to learn about all this stuff. you had to bring people together. A lot of people, and I know that it wasn't just you, but like certainly fostering and building that community of people who probably were also worried about the situation. None of us had experienced something like that before. And so I love just the way that you're articulating the fact that, yeah, it's hard work, but that's the point, and that's the way that you exercise the resilience muscle. And anyway, I just love that. So in terms of how it got started, I'd love to kind of learn, like, how did you go from, okay, crap, I'm stuck in Ecuador, to let's start this community?
Okay. Well, to start with, I never saw myself as stuck in Ecuador.
Sorry, apologies.
I really, no, you don't need to apologize, but I do like, because a lot of people say, so how is it being stuck in Ecuador? I said, I am lucky to find myself here, because if I had waited even a week, I would have been stuck in Dallas. I would have been stuck in Dallas if my flight had been literally just a week later. I left Dallas on the 4th of March, and by the time I landed in Quito, it was the 17th, and it was the very night that they locked the borders of that country. I had the opportunity to take shelter from the storm of pandemic, of not only that, but, I can't talk about 2020 without addressing the craziness. And I don't need to go into detail, but say the craziness that was going on in the United States, the emotional battering that people in the United States went through that was above and beyond the pandemic. George Floyd, a crazy election period. It was just madness. And I had the option to start my day listening to KERA in Dallas, which is the NPR, to stream that. And then once I got my news that I wanted to get from the United States that particular day, turn it off and keep my stress level at a lower point than my friends and family that were in the United States. So no, wasn't stuck, had the opportunity to not be stuck in Dallas and to find a place to carve out an opportunity while I was, in Quito. And so, as I mentioned, once I started to realize that I was going to be here, first I worked on a digital marketing plan for my business, and tried to pull the resources to create that, and then, as I said, around about October was when I started thinking, I've had other Facebook groups for my business. I've got a Facebook page for Positive Impact for You, and I have a Facebook page for Best Beyond 50, which was kind of like the informational resource for my clients who were mostly beyond 50. And so I said, now that I'm a digital nomad, it would appear, maybe I should try to find other digital nomads who are also beyond 50. And so I came up with the name, which made sense because I saw it as sort of like a subdomain or division of Best Beyond 50. So I immediately went ahead and at least set up the group Digital Nomads Beyond 50. But that was in October, and that was right in the beginning of my crazy, mad, busy season. So it really wasn't until January that I started to even tell people about the group and try to to promote it. And I was very, very surprised at how quickly people responded and joined the group and started. And as I mentioned, they started asking questions. Since I myself was new to being a digital nomad, I didn't have the answers yet for those. And so I just went into learning and development mode. I said, you used to do conferences before, so use the resources that are available to pull together the people to answer these questions and see where it goes from there. And that's how I came across Hey Summit. So.
And in terms of this community, I mean, I think you said you were surprised at the speed at which people started to engage. Do you think that was because there's a lack of content out there, or maybe just an assumption that the people who are digital nomads are all in their 20s and they're not talking about the same subjects? Or why do you think it is that this caught fire in the way that it did?
I think it was a perfect storm of one. A lot of people were working remote and realizing for the first time, hey, I can work remote and possibly continue. Who knows how long this is going to last? I kind of like this. It works for me, especially as an older employee of whatever corporation. I'm liking that this is forcing me to slow down a little bit and working remote. That was one. The next thing was also people coming to the realization, depending on where they were financially, that they were experiencing possibly in some cases a financial devastation of the pandemic. And they were saying, oh, shoot, I may be working for the rest of my life. I may not be able to work until retirement age and then start to travel and enjoy my life. Maybe I need to start looking at how I can do that now and fit that in with working remote. Maybe I need to use that time to start a side hustle, a side gig, and start to grow and nurture that into something that combined with maybe Social Security when that time comes together, they'll give me a good income that I can just continue traveling and do like a semi-retirement. And then all of that happening with people who are older. I think now in the United States, they're talking about the mass exodus. There are a lot of people quitting their jobs right now. And it's no coincidence that no sooner than they're being told, hey, you need to come back to the corporate office, they're saying, no. As I saw in another article, it says people, the strongest option that they have to exercise at this point is to quit their job and leave their job and say, no, I do have other options and I'm going to exercise those options right now. So, that also tied into, I think, the response of people to digital nomads, as well as the fact that maybe some of them might have experienced what I experienced during the process. Rob, I tried to join one of those like digital nomad co-live, co-work type villages. And when I was filling out the online application, the start of the application, one of the questions that they asked was to please select what age group or category I was in. And the oldest category was 45 plus. When I clicked 45 plus, I got an immediate pop-up saying, well, thank you for your interest, but we don't host chapters or communities for digital nomads within this age group. But when we do, we will notify you. And so once again, I thought to myself, they have got to be more people out there like me in this situation. And if this is what they are looking at when they try to reach out to find resources or support, because I was really kind of looking forward to joining this co-village, because it's where, a group of people live together, they're co-living and co-working. And it helps to just for those level of solo travel on your own, isolation. And then you just go on, the next 2 months, you're on your own again. So one of the first projects that is coming out of the Digital Nomad Beyond 50 Summit, as well as we're going to be doing like smaller learning spaces that are subject specific. But I'm right now planning a co-living, co-work village, temporary village for a month to 2 months in Belize on an island that is one of my favorite islands off the coast of Belize. And the point is, it just may be the first co-live, co-work that is specifically designed for digital nomads of this age group. And I'm really excited about the possibility of what that's going to look like and the planning for that.
That's fantastic, because I have to say, you know, like listening to that, first off, it's pretty outrageous that somebody were to say that on a forum. But again, going back to it, your response to something like that is, well, just make my own, rather than you know, rather than something else.
That's my nature.
That's incredible. So it kind of goes on to my next kind of question, but like, kind of what's next for the community? What's next for you? What are you seeing? Because obviously, in absolute terms, this is incredibly recent. But what are you kind of seeing in terms of where you want to go next? You've already talked about actually creating one of these kind of co-living, co-working villages, temporary villages. But what's next in terms of whether it's growing the community or nurturing it or serving it in other ways? What are you seeing?
Okay. First, out of the summit, we came away with some specific topics that people have a strong interest in getting more information on. Of course, job sourcing for those who actually want to continue working for some kind of a corporation, only doing it 100% remote. Of course, that was a no-brainer as far as that as a subject matter. But also what came out was a lot of attention and a lot of interest in the financial pieces, how, you know, financing, how to prepare financially, what are the other possible income streams. We had a speaker talk about Bitcoin and how suited that is as an additional income stream for digital nomads. Because one of the things that everyone says, no matter what age, people, the most successful people who were digital nomads have multiple streams of income. So how do you develop those other streams of income was another topic. Another topic that a lot of the women on the side were kind of like pulling me off to the side to ask, so what is it like dating as a digital nomad? And so, playfully, we've got one topic that we're knocking around within the group is love and
it's
lust.
Important. You got to have fun.
Journey. Yes. So that's going to be one of our, learning spaces, discussions that we're going to be having. And we just recently, we started a clubhouse, so we're going to be able to have some of these discussions within the clubhouse, as well as, what was the other one that's really key? The taxes for digital nomads. So these would be, instead of having, in the summit, people got 40 to 45 minutes on this topic. So now what we're looking at is having sub-summits that where you get 2 hours on this specific topic. Make sure that you have a will. When you leave, how to prepare, how many credit cards do you need to travel with, and all that type of information. So I'm pulling these subject matter experts in from the summit to now give us digital DMB 50 learning spaces that people can sign up for. That will be, as I said, about 2 hours or so long. Workshops on a particular subject, and then live discussions, as I mentioned just before, love and lust on the road to being a digital nomad, as well as a whole piece on the whole Bitcoin, because that is a really hot topic for a lot of people. A lot of people don't, like me, I didn't understand it, didn't know that much about it, just seemed kind of shady to me. And even as a result of the summit, now I'm looking to say, yeah, if I can, I got $200 I could lose. Let me just start there and build it up and see. But how do I do it? That's as an approach that would be another learning space for people. So the learning spaces are something that we're going to be starting very soon. The live chats, hot 10 topics, or hot 10 questions we're going to be doing as live chats on YouTube as well. And and things happen so fast, Rob. I haven't even had a chance to put up the website for Digital Nomads Beyond 50. Up until now, our only website was actually the Hay Summit registration site. So that's another thing that I'm going to have to be working on, even as I'm going into my working 7 days a week period of Medicare and healthcare. Oh, and by the way, I also represent travel insurance. Can't let that pass as well. And that's very, very important, as people know now, that it is a no-brainer that people need to have that when they're traveling. The unexpected is too much a part of our reality.
Absolutely, especially now.
Yes, indeed.
Well, Siobhan, thank you so much for spending a few minutes talking with me, especially as you're in situ, getting ready to go on to the next kind of adventure. If anybody would like to learn more about Digital Nomads Beyond 50 and connect with Siobhan, you can find them on the Facebook group. If you search for Digital Nomads Beyond 50, you can also join the conversation in their Clubhouse or on YouTube, or by visiting Digital Nomads Beyond 50, that's 50.com. Siobhan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. Is there another place?
Yes, we also have an adjunct Facebook page that I recently started. I don't know whether you were familiar with, during the pandemic, there were a couple of Facebook pages, View from My Window. Mm-hmm. Well, now we've started Digital Nomad View from My Laptop. Okay. And so we have people posting views from their laptop, what they're seeing, where they are from their laptop, or sometimes it's a selfie of them with their laptop and where they are at the time and what they're experiencing at that time. So that again, and this is open for people who are digital nomads as well as those who are not digital nomads, if they just want to join the fun of seeing where these people are and how they and where they are working at that time.
Fantastic.
So I want to make sure you get that in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Siobhan, and good luck with the travel.
Thank you very much, Rob, and good luck with everything that you are doing. You folks are doing a great job at Hay Summit, and I look forward to working with you all again next year on our next big summit.
Thanks. Appreciate it.